Captain Daniel Harris stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge and watched the alien world grow larger on the view screen. The planet looked like something from a dream, with purple oceans and cities that floated above the clouds. Towers made of crystal caught the light from two suns and threw rainbows across the sky. It was beautiful, he had to admit. The Velinari knew how to build impressive things. "We're receiving docking coordinates," Lieutenant Amy Chun said from the navigation station. She looked up at Daniel with concern in her eyes. "Captain, are you sure about this? The Velinari have turned away 3 other species this year alone. They don't think much of anyone younger than them." Daniel smiled slightly. "That's why they sent us instead of a military ship. They want to see if we'll bow and scrape. We won't." Ambassador Peter Cross cleared his throat from his seat near the back of the bridge. The older man had been a diplomat for 30 years, and he believed in following protocol. "Captain Harris, perhaps we should discuss our approach. The Velinari are an ancient civilization. They expect certain formalities. They'll get respect," Daniel said. "But they won't get us pretending to be less than we are." The ship descended through layers of clouds until they reached the floating palace. It was massive, larger than most space stations, made entirely of some kind of clear crystal that seemed to glow from within. Smaller platforms surrounded it, connected by bridges that looked too delicate to hold any weight. Everything about it was designed to impress and intimidate visitors. The horizon's edge landed on a designated platform. Daniel straightened his uniform and nodded to Amy. "You have the bridge. Keep channels open." "Good luck, sir," she said quietly. Daniel walked to the airlock with Ambassador Cross and 2 security officers. The door opened, and they stepped out into air that smelled like flowers and something else, something chemical that Daniel could not identify. A group of Velinari waited for them at the end of a long walkway. The Velinari were tall and thin, with skin that shifted between blue and silver depending on how the light hit them. They wore long robes that seemed to be made of liquid metal. Their faces were elegant, with large eyes and features that looked almost human but not quite. They moved with the grace of people who had never known hurry or fear. At the center of the group stood a female Velinari who was clearly important. She wore more jewelry than the others, and her robes were decorated with symbols that probably meant something significant. Her expression was cold and bored. "I am Princess Kaysara, 3rd daughter of Emperor Velmuth," she said. Her voice came from a translator device, but even through the machine, Daniel could hear the tone of someone doing an unpleasant duty. "I welcome you to our world on behalf of my father." Daniel bowed slightly, a gesture of respect but not submission. "I'm Captain Daniel Harris. This is Ambassador Peter Cross. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Kaysara's eyes moved over them with obvious disappointment, as if she had expected something more impressive. "Yes, well, you performed adequately in driving away pirates from our outer colony. My father believes this warrants a conversation about possible trade agreements. I am assigned to evaluate whether your species is worth our time." Ambassador Cross stepped forward, his diplomatic training taking over. "Princess Kaysara, humanity is honored by this opportunity. We hope to establish—" "I will tell you how this will proceed," Kaysara interrupted. She did not even look at Cross as she spoke. "You will tour our palace. You will see what a truly advanced civilization has accomplished. Then you will present your credentials and explain what you can offer us. Finally, I will ask you questions to determine if humans are capable of understanding civilized behavior. If your answers satisfy me, we will discuss trade. If not, you will leave." Daniel felt Cross tense beside him. The ambassador was used to being treated with respect, and Kaysara was making it clear she considered them inferior. Daniel touched Cross's arm gently, a silent message to let it go. "That sounds reasonable," Daniel said calmly. "Lead the way." Kaisara turned without another word and walked toward the palace. Her attendants fell in behind her, and the humans followed. They crossed the crystal bridge, and Daniel noticed it was completely transparent. He could see hundreds of feet down to the purple ocean below. It was designed to unsettle visitors. The palace interior was even more impressive than the outside. Rooms flowed into each other without clear walls. Everything glowed softly. Art hung in the air without visible support. Music played from nowhere, complex and strange. Velinari moved through the halls like they owned the universe, which they probably believed they did. Kaisara showed them libraries filled with knowledge from 1,000 worlds. She showed them gardens where plants grew in impossible shapes. She showed them technology that made human equipment look primitive. With every room, her message was clear. You are children playing at civilization. Daniel remained polite but unimpressed. He had seen amazing things before. Technology was just technology. It did not make you better than anyone else. Finally, they reached a great hall where more Velinari waited. These were clearly nobles or officials, all watching the humans with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. Kaisara gestured for Daniel and his people to stand in the center of the room. Now, she said, her voice echoing in the vast space. Ambassador Cross, present your formal greeting. Cross stepped forward and began the speech he had prepared. He talked about friendship between species and mutual benefit and respect for ancient cultures. It was a good speech, diplomatic and careful. Kaisara looked bored before he was halfway through. When Cross finished, Kaisara waited a moment before responding. Your words are pretty, Ambassador, but I have heard similar words from many species. Words are easy. Understanding is difficult. She turned her gaze to Daniel. Captain Harris, you seem less concerned with impressing us than your ambassador. Why is that? Daniel met her eyes steadily. With respect, Princess, I don't think you can be impressed. You've already decided we're beneath you. Nothing we say or do will change that, unless we prove otherwise. The room went silent. Several Velinari made sounds of shock. Ambassador Cross looked like he might faint. Kaisara's expression did not change, but something flickered in her eyes. Interest, maybe. You are very direct, she said slowly. I'm honest, Daniel replied. Isn't that what you wanted? To see if we understand civilized behavior. Civilization isn't about fancy buildings or ancient history. It's about how you treat people, even people you think are lesser than you. Kaisara studied him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. It was not a warm smile, but it was genuine. Interesting. Most species either grovel or bluster when I evaluate them. You do neither. She moved closer to Daniel, her robes whispering across the crystal floor. I have studied 47 spacefaring species, Captain. Each one is motivated by predictable desires, power, territory, resources, prestige, understanding. What drives a species tells me whether they are worth knowing. She gestured around the room. I have artifacts from each of those species. Weapons from warriors. Temples from believers. Equations from thinkers. Each object represents what they value most, what they desire above all else. Kaisara stopped directly in front of Daniel. Before we discuss trade or alliances, I must understand what drives humanity. I will ask you one question, Captain Harris. If your answer helps me understand your species, negotiations will continue. If not, you will return to your ship, and humanity will remain isolated from Velinari space. Daniel felt everyone watching him. Cross looked terrified. The Velinari nobles leaned forward with interest. Kaisara's expression was unreadable. What is your question? Daniel asked. Kaisara's eyes locked onto his. What do humans desire above all else? What is the one thing that drives every action, every choice, every dream of your species? Answer me this, and answer truthfully, or this meeting is over." The question hung in the air between them. Daniel knew this was important, more important than any trade agreement. This alien princess wanted to understand humanity's soul. He could give her the easy answer, the diplomatic answer. But she had asked for truth. "I'll answer your question," Daniel said quietly. "But not here, not now. If you truly want to understand what drives humanity, you need more than a simple answer. You need context. You need to see us as we really are." Kaisara's expression hardened. "You refuse to answer?" "I'm asking for time," Daniel said. "Spend one day with us. Not as a princess touring primitives, but as someone genuinely trying to understand. If you still want the answer after that, I'll give it to you. And I promise, princess, it will be worth the wait." Kaisara stared at him. Daniel could not tell if she was insulted or intrigued. Finally, she spoke. "You are either very clever or very foolish, Captain Harris. I will accept your terms. Tomorrow, I will come to your vessel, and you will answer my question." She turned away, ending the audience. As the humans were escorted out, Daniel caught Amy's transmission in his earpiece. "Sir, what just happened?" Daniel smiled to himself. "I bought us time to show her who we really are. And if she doesn't like what she sees, then at least she'll understand us before she dismisses us," Daniel said. "That's more than most species get." Princess Kaisara arrived at the horizon's edge exactly on time. She came alone, which surprised Daniel. He had expected guards or attendants, but she walked up the boarding ramp by herself, her liquid metal robes flowing behind her. "Welcome aboard, Princess," Daniel said, meeting her at the airlock. "Thank you for coming." Kaisara looked around the corridor with obvious skepticism. The human ship was clean and functional, but compared to her crystal palace, it probably looked crude. "I am here as agreed, Captain. I expect you to fulfill your promise." "I will," Daniel said. "But first, are you hungry?" "We were about to have breakfast." Kaisara blinked, her large eyes showing confusion. "You wish to eat? Now?" "It's morning," Daniel said simply. "Come on. I'll introduce you to the crew." He led her through the corridors toward the mess hall. Kaisara walked behind him, and he could feel her studying everything. The walls were metal, not crystal. The lights were simple fixtures, not glowing magic. Everything was practical and worn from use. They entered the mess hall, and conversation stopped. 20 crew members sat at various tables, eating breakfast and talking. All of them turned to stare at the alien princess. "Everyone, this is Princess Kaisara," Daniel announced. "She's our guest for the day." "Kaisara, this is the crew of the Horizon's Edge." A few people nodded. Most went back to their food. One young technician, Jake Morrison, waved cheerfully. "Morning, Princess. Want some coffee?" "Fair warning, it's terrible, but it works." Kaisara looked stunned. "They do not bow. They do not show respect?" "They just did," Daniel said, leading her to the food line. "They acknowledged you. On this ship, everyone eats together. Rank means responsibility, not worth. I'm the captain, but I eat the same food as Jake over there." He handed her a tray. Kaisara took it uncertainly, watching as Daniel filled his own plate with eggs and toast. She copied him, though she looked uncomfortable. They sat at a table with Amy and 2 engineers. The conversation resumed around them, people talking about repair schedules and sports scores from messages they had received from Earth. "This is strange," Kaisara said quietly. "On my world, nobles eat separately. The thought of a princess sharing a meal with common workers would be what?" Amy asked, taking a bite of her toast. "Beneath you?" Kaisara hesitated. "That is what I was taught." "Here, it would be lonely," Amy said. What's the point of eating alone when you can eat with friends? Kaysara looked around the mess hall. She noticed things Daniel knew she would see. Photos stuck to walls. Children's drawings. Letters from home. Every human carried pieces of what they had left behind. Why do you keep these? Kaysara asked, pointing to a picture of Amy's family taped near the food line. You are in space. These people are not here. Amy smiled, but there was sadness in it. That's exactly why we keep them. To remember what we're coming back to. That's my mom and dad, my 2 brothers. I miss them every day, so I like seeing their faces. But does it not cause pain? To be reminded of absence? Sure, Amy said. But it would hurt more to forget them. Kaysara fell silent, processing this. Around them, the crew laughed and argued and complained about the coffee. It was normal human chaos, and Daniel could see it confused the princess. On her world, everything was ordered and controlled. Here, people were just people. After breakfast, Daniel took Kaysara to the observation deck. Several crew members were there during their break. Engineer Lisa Parks sat in the corner with a guitar, playing softly. A few others listened or read or simply watched the stars outside the viewport. This is where we come when we need space to think, Daniel explained. Or when we need company. Whichever feels right. Lisa's fingers moved across the strings, creating a melody that was both beautiful and sad. Then she started singing. The words were about home, about missing someone, about the distance between stars. Other crew members joined in on the chorus, their voices rough but honest. Kaysara listened with her head tilted. Your music is strange. It speaks of sadness. Why create art about pain? Because pain is part of life, Lisa said, pausing her playing. And music helps us deal with it. This song is about my husband. He's back on Earth with our kids. I won't see them for another year. And why did you leave? Kaysara asked. Because this matters too, Lisa said. Because exploring space and meeting new people is important work. Because I want my kids to grow up in a universe where humans have friends out here among the stars. But that doesn't mean leaving doesn't hurt. Kaysara walked to the viewport and looked out at the darkness between stars. I do not understand. You fill your lives with reminders of what you cannot have. Your ship is decorated with absence. Your songs celebrate longing. This seems like a form of torture. Daniel moved to stand beside her. Or it's a form of love. We don't love things less because they're far away. We love them more because we know time is limited. Every moment matters because it won't last forever. My people live for thousands of years, Kaysara said. We do not have this urgency. There is always more time. And what do you do with all that time? Daniel asked gently. Kaysara opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. She looked troubled. We study. We create. We maintain our civilization. But do you love? Daniel asked. Do you miss someone when they're gone? Do you fear losing what matters to you? Kaysara turned to face him, her silver blue skin reflecting the starlight. Why would we fear loss if nothing truly ends for us? Why would we miss someone when we know we will see them again? Why would we love something that causes pain? Because the pain means it mattered, Daniel said. Come on. I want to show you something. He led her to the communications room where a crew member named Carl was just finishing a video call. The man's eyes were red, and he wiped at his face as he stood up. Sorry, Captain, Carl said, his voice rough. Just talking to my mom. She's not doing well. Take your time, Daniel said. Is there anything we can do? Carl shook his head. Just keep the communication channel open. I want to talk to her every day while I still can. After Carl left, Kaysara stared at the empty chair. His mother is dying? Yes, Daniel said. She's very old. He's been calling her every day for weeks, even though the time delay makes conversation difficult. He wants her to know he's thinking about her. But he chose to come into space, Kaisara said, confused. He chose to leave her. And now he suffers because of that choice. How is this not foolish? Daniel pulled up his own communication files and showed Kaisara a photo. It showed him younger, with his arm around a woman who was laughing. This is Jennifer. She was my wife. She died in a shuttle accident 4 years ago. Kaisara's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you, Daniel said. The thing is, I knew when I married her that one of us would eventually lose the other. That's how human life works. We don't live forever. Every relationship ends, one way or another. But I married her anyway. I loved her anyway. And when I lost her, it nearly destroyed me. He looked down at the photo, his thumb tracing the edge. But I wouldn't trade those years for anything. Not to avoid the pain. Not even to have her back, because that would mean I never learned what loving her taught me. She made me a better person. Losing her made me understand what really matters. Kaisara reached out slowly and touched the edge of the photo. You keep her image. Like Amy keeps her family. Like Carl calls his mother even though it hurts. You all carry your pain with you. We carry our love with us, Daniel corrected. The pain is just proof that the love was real. For a long moment, Kaisara was silent. Then she said something that surprised Daniel. I have never loved anything. In 300 years of life, I have never felt what you describe. I have responsibilities. I have duties. I have knowledge. But I have never feared losing something because I have never cared deeply enough about anything to fear its absence. She looked at Daniel with something like wonder in her eyes. Is this what makes humans so strange? You love things despite knowing you will lose them? You form attachments to people who will die. You fill your brief lives with connections that will inevitably end in pain. Yes, Daniel said simply. Because the alternative is living forever without ever truly living at all. Kaisara turned away, her robe swirling. She walked to the viewport and stood there for a long time, watching the stars. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer, uncertain. You said you would answer my question. What humans desire above all else. I think I am beginning to understand, but I want to hear you say it. I want to know if what I am feeling now is what you meant. Daniel joined her at the viewport. Outside, the universe stretched on forever, infinite, and cold. But inside this ship, humans had created warmth, family, connection. What are you feeling? He asked. Kaisara was quiet for a moment. Fear, and something else. Something I do not have a word for. The fear is that I have wasted 300 years existing without living. The other feeling is harder to name. It is a desire to understand more, to feel more, to be part of what I see here on this ship. She turned to him, and for the first time, she looked vulnerable. Tell me, Captain Harris. Tell me what drives humanity. I need to know. Daniel smiled gently. Come back to the observation deck with me. I want to show you Earth. Then I'll answer your question. I promise. The observation deck was empty when they returned. Daniel had asked the crew to give them privacy for this conversation. He pulled up images on the main view screen, pictures of Earth stored in the ship's database. The first image showed a mother holding a newborn baby, both of them in a hospital room. The mother's face showed exhaustion and joy mixed together. The baby was red and wrinkled and tiny. This is where every human life begins, Daniel said. We start helpless, completely dependent on others to survive. That baby can't feed itself, can't protect itself, can't do anything alone. It needs love to live. Kaisara studied the image. Most species are born vulnerable. This is not unique to humans. True, Daniel said. But watch what we do with that vulnerability. He changed the image to show an elderly couple walking hand in hand through a park. The trees around them were gold and red with autumn. The couple moved slowly, their bodies bent with age, but their hands were clasped tightly together. These two people have been together for 60 years, Daniel explained. They raised children. They survived hardships. They built a life together. And now they're old, and one of them will die first, and the other will have to go on alone. They know this. They've always known this. But they hold hands anyway. Another image appeared. Children playing in the rain, laughing as they splashed in puddles. Their clothes were soaked, and they would probably catch colds, but they did not care. They were alive in that moment, pure joy on their faces. This is a random afternoon, Daniel said. Nothing special. Just kids being kids. But someone took a photo because they knew that moment mattered. Those children will grow up. They'll become adults with responsibilities and worries. But right now, they're just happy to be playing in the rain. Kaisara moved closer to the screen. These are ordinary moments. Why do you preserve them? Because they're not ordinary to us, Daniel said. Every moment is precious, because we know it won't come again. Those children will never be exactly that age again. That couple will not have infinite autumns together. That mother will watch her baby grow and change every single day. Nothing stays the same for humans. Everything is temporary. He pulled up more images. A young man and woman meeting for the first time at a cafe, their eyes locked in that instant of recognition. Two friends saying goodbye at an airport, one leaving for a job across the world. A father teaching his daughter to ride a bicycle, his hand steadying her as she learned to balance. A soldier's funeral, with flags and tears and a widow accepting folded cloth. Do you see the pattern? Daniel asked. Every image is about connection. Meeting someone, being with someone, losing someone, learning from someone. We document these moments because they're what life means to us. Kaisara pointed to the funeral image. Why would you preserve such sadness? Why not focus only on joy? Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled up another series of images. Memorials and monuments from across Earth. The Vietnam War Memorial with its wall of names. The Hiroshima Peace Memorial. The Holocaust Museum. The September 11th Memorial with its reflecting pools. Graveyards where flowers grew between headstones. We build monuments to sorrow, Daniel said. We create permanent markers for pain. We do this because forgetting would dishonor the people who suffered and died. We remember the bad things because those people mattered. Their lives meant something. Their deaths changed us. He changed the images again, showing human art through history. Paintings of Madonna and Child. Sculptures of lovers embracing. Photographs of war and peace. Music scores for symphonies and simple folk songs. Books stacked in libraries. Look at our art, Daniel said. Poetry about love and loss. Novels about finding and losing. Music about longing and belonging. Paintings that capture a single perfect moment before it passes. We create all this art about the same thing. Connection. The need to touch another soul. The fear of being alone. The joy of being understood. Kaisara studied the images in silence. Daniel could see her processing, trying to understand. Finally, she spoke. Your art is about pain as much as joy. Your monuments remember suffering. Your music mourns absence. This still seems like torment. Daniel nodded. It would be, if that's all there was. But there's more. He pulled up images of human achievements. Not weapons or conquest, but other things. Hospitals where doctors work to save lives. Schools where teachers help children learn. Scientists collaborating on research. Engineers building bridges. Farmers planting crops. Volunteers rebuilding after disasters. Look at what we do with the time we have, Daniel said. We know our lives are brief. We know we'll die. But we spend our time trying to make things better for the people who come after us. We plant trees we'll never sit under. We teach children who will outlive us. We build things that will last longer than our bodies. Kaisara tilted her head. You work for the future, even though you will not be there to see it? Especially because we won't be there, Daniel said. That's the point. We can't live forever, so we try to leave something good behind. We try to matter. We try to make sure our brief existence meant something to someone. He pulled up one final image. It showed Earth from space, the blue marble floating in darkness. Clouds swirled over oceans. Lights sparkled on the night side where cities glowed. This is home, Daniel said quietly. 4 billion years old. It gave birth to everything humans are. And it's temporary too. Someday, billions of years from now, our sun will die and Earth will die with it. Nothing lasts forever, not even worlds. But that doesn't make Earth less precious. It makes it more precious. We only get one planet. We only get one life. We only get a limited number of moments with the people we love. He turned to face Kaisara directly. You asked me what humans desire above all else. You studied 47 species, and they all wanted power or resources or prestige. Those things matter to humans too, but they're not what drives us. They're just tools we use to get what we really want. Kaisara's large eyes fixed on him. Then tell me, what do humans truly want? Daniel took a breath. We want connection. We want to love and be loved. We want to matter to someone. We want to be remembered after we're gone. We want our brief existence to mean something. We want to touch another soul and be touched in return. We want to belong. We want to be part of something larger than ourselves. He gestured to the image of Earth. We don't desire power for its own sake. We desire it so we can protect the people we love. We don't want territory for conquest. We want a safe home where our children can grow. We don't crave immortality. We crave meaning. We want our lives to count for something before they end. Kaisara was very still. Everything else is secondary? Everything else is just a way to achieve connection, Daniel confirmed. We build cities so we can live near each other. We develop technology so we can communicate across distance. We explore space so we can meet new people and form new bonds. We create art to share our feelings with others. We write history to remember those who came before us. We have children so we can love them and be loved by them. Everything we do, all our achievements and failures, are attempts to fulfill that one fundamental need. He moved closer to her. We don't want to be alone. That's the core of it. We're terrified of being forgotten, of dying without mattering to anyone, of living without connecting to another soul. So we love fiercely, even though it hurts. We form families and friendships and communities. We reach out across the stars, hoping to find someone who understands us. We do all of this because connection is what makes life worth living. Kaisara's skin shifted color, becoming more blue than silver. Daniel had learned enough about Velanari to know this meant emotional response. She was feeling something strong. And you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Have you found this connection? After losing your wife, have you found it again? Daniel thought about the crew of the Horizon's Edge, about Amy and Jake and Lisa and Carl and all the others, about the bonds formed over years of serving together, about the family they had become in the darkness between stars. Yes, he said. It's different than what I had with Jennifer, but it's real. The crew of this ship, they matter to me. I would die to protect them. And I know they'd do the same for me. That's connection. That's what makes the loneliness of space bearable. Kaisara turned back to the view screen, where Earth still glowed against the darkness. I told you, I have lived for 300 years. My people live for thousands more. We have eternity or close enough. We do not form deep bonds because there is always more time. We do not fear loss because nothing truly ends for us. We do not love because we have never needed to. She was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Vulnerable in a way Daniel had never heard from her. But watching your crew today, seeing these images, hearing your words, I felt something I have never felt before. A pain in my chest. A desire for something I cannot name. When Carl spoke to his dying mother, I felt that pain. When Lisa sang about missing her family, I felt that longing. When you showed me your wife's picture, I felt that loss. She turned to Daniel, and there was moisture in her large eyes. Tears, something Velinari apparently could do but rarely did. For the first time in my existence, I want something. I want to understand this more deeply. I want to feel what you feel. I want to know. For 3 days, Princess Kaisara did not contact the Horizon's Edge. Daniel received reports from the Velinari Palace that she had gone into seclusion, which apparently was unusual for a royal evaluation. Ambassador Cross was nervous about the silence. Amy thought it was a good sign. She's processing, Amy said over morning coffee. You gave her a lot to think about, Captain. Maybe more than she was ready for. Daniel stared out the viewport at the Crystal Palace floating in the distance. Maybe I gave her too much. She asked for understanding, and I showed her everything. The good and the bad. The joy and the pain. You were honest, Amy said. That's what she wanted. On the 4th day, a message arrived. Princess Kaisara requested the presence of Captain Daniel Harris and his delegation at a full court assembly. The formal language made it sound important and possibly final. This is it, Ambassador Cross said as they prepared to leave the ship. She's either going to approve trade negotiations or send us away forever. Captain Harris, please let me do the talking this time. We need to salvage this situation. Daniel did not argue. He had said what he needed to say. Now it was Kaisara's turn. The Crystal Palace's great hall was filled with Velinari when they arrived. Hundreds of them, all dressed in elaborate robes, all watching the humans with various expressions. At the far end of the hall sat the Emperor himself, a massive figure on a throne that seemed to be made of solidified light. Princess Kaisara stood before her father. She looked different somehow. More focused. More present. When she saw Daniel, something flickered across her face. Recognition, maybe gratitude. Captain Daniel Harris and his delegation. The Emperor's voice boomed through the hall. My daughter has completed her evaluation of your species. We are assembled to hear her report and judgment. Daniel and his people stood in the center of the hall, surrounded by alien nobles. He could feel their stares, their skepticism. Cross looked terrified. Amy stood steady beside him. Kaisara stepped forward. Honored court, revered father, I have spent the last 4 days in deep contemplation of what I learned about humanity. I now present my findings. She gestured, and images appeared in the air above the assembly. The same images Daniel had shown her. Earth, families, memorials, art, ordinary. Moments captured in time. Humans are driven by a desire that I have never encountered in any of the 47 species I have previously studied, Kaisara said. Her voice was strong and clear. They do not primarily seek power, though they can be powerful. They do not primarily seek resources, though they are resourceful. They do not primarily seek prestige, though they can achieve great things. She paused, and Daniel saw several Velinari nobles lean forward with interest. Humans seek connection, Kaisara continued. They desire love and belonging above all else. They form bonds despite knowing these bonds will end. They love people who will die. They create art about loss. They build monuments to pain. They carry reminders of absence with them wherever they go. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some Velinari sounded confused. Others sounded dismissive. This proves they are primitive, one noble said loudly. They are controlled by base emotions. They form attachments like animals. Surely this disqualifies them from elevated status. Other voices joined in agreement. The Velinari court seemed ready to dismiss humanity, based on Kaisara's own report. But Kaisara raised her hand for silence. Her expression was fierce. No, you misunderstand. This does not make them primitive. It makes them extraordinary. The hall went quiet. The Emperor leaned forward slightly. Explain, daughter. Kaisara turned to address the full court. We Velinari live for thousands of years. We are ancient. We are wise. We have built a civilization that spans star systems. We have technology beyond most species' comprehension. We have art and culture and knowledge accumulated over millennia. She paused, and her next words were heavy with meaning. And we have become hollow. We exist, but we do not live. We have eternity, but nothing to fill it with. When was the last time any of us created something that moved our souls? When did we last form a bond so deep that losing it would destroy us? When did we last care about anything enough to fear its loss? The silence was complete now. No Velinari spoke. Kaisara's words hung in the air like an accusation. I spent one day among humans, Kaisara said, her voice softer but no less powerful. One day. And in that time, I felt more than I have felt in 3 centuries of existence. I witnessed a man weeping because his mother was dying far away. I heard songs about longing and loss. I saw photos of people they might never see again. I learned about a captain who loved his wife so deeply that losing her nearly broke him, yet he would not change a single moment of the time they had together. She turned to look directly at Daniel. They live such brief lives. Decades, not millennia. They know from the moment they are born that they will die. They know everyone they love will die. They know nothing they build will last forever. And yet they love anyway. They create anyway. They connect anyway. They fill their short lives with meaning because they know time is precious. Kaisara's skin had turned a deep blue, the color of strong emotion. In their brief existence, they accomplish more, feel more, and create more genuine meaning than we have in all our long years. They are not primitive. They are advanced in ways we have forgotten. The Emperor studied his daughter carefully. These are strong words, Kaisara. You suggest we have much to learn from these short-lived beings. I do not suggest it, Father, Kaisara said. I state it as fact. We have become stagnant because we have forgotten what it means to value something. Our immortality has made us indifferent. We do not create art that moves the soul because nothing moves us. We do not fight for ideals because we have no urgency. We do not love because we have never feared loss. She turned back to the assembly. But humans understand something we have lost. They understand that value comes from scarcity. That love means more when time is limited. That every moment matters when you know there will not be infinite moments to come. They have learned to live fully in the time they have, while we have learned only to endure through the endless time we possess. Ambassador Cross looked like he might faint from shock. Amy was smiling slightly. Daniel simply watched Kaisara, seeing the transformation that had occurred in her over the past few days. What do you recommend? The Emperor asked. Should we engage with these humans, or keep our distance from such emotionally volatile beings? Kaisara took a deep breath. I recommend full alliance and complete cultural exchange. I recommend we learn from them as much as they learn from us. I recommend we remember what it means to feel something real, even if it brings pain along with joy." She paused, and then said something that made the entire court gasp. "And I request permission to serve as permanent Velinary ambassador to humanity. I wish to be stationed aboard a human vessel to continue my studies of their culture and way of life." The hall erupted in shocked voices. Velinary nobles talked over each other, expressing disbelief and outrage. A princess living among primitive, short-lived beings? On their crude ships? It was unthinkable. The emperor raised his hand for silence. When the hall quieted, he spoke directly to his daughter. "Kaisara, you would leave your home, your people, your comfortable palace, to live on that small metal vessel? To surround yourself with beings who will age and die while you remain young? You would experience loss and grief and heartbreak. Why would you choose this?" Kaisara's response was quiet but firm. "Because for the first time in 300 years, I felt alive." When Captain Harris explained what humans desire, I realized something I had never considered before. I have never desired anything. I have had duties and responsibilities and knowledge, but I have never wanted something so deeply that it consumed me. Her skin flushed an even deeper blue, and Daniel realized with surprise that she was blushing. The Velinary equivalent, anyway. When he spoke about connection and love and meaning, I felt something wake inside me, Kaisara continued. I felt a desire to understand this more, to experience it, to be part of something that matters, even if it does not last forever. I desire connection. I desire to learn what it means to truly live rather than simply exist. She looked at Daniel again, and her eyes held vulnerability and hope. I asked Captain Harris what humans desire. He answered honestly, and his answer changed me. Now I know what I desire. I desire to be part of something real, to form bonds that matter, to feel things deeply, even if it brings pain, to live a life of meaning rather than endure an eternity of emptiness. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. It was a sad smile, full of understanding. You have already changed, my daughter. I can see it in you. The curiosity you have always carried has become something more. Very well. If the humans will accept you, you have my permission. All eyes turned to Daniel. Ambassador Cross looked panicked, clearly not prepared to make such a significant decision. But Daniel stepped forward. Princess Kaisara, he said formally, if you join us, you need to understand what you're choosing. You will form bonds with humans who will age and die while you remain young. You will watch people you care about fade away. You will learn to love things you know you will lose. You will experience grief and heartbreak. 3 months later, the mess hall of the Horizon's Edge was full of noise and laughter. Kaisara sat at a table with Jake, Lisa, and 3 other crew members, arguing passionately about which Earth movie was better. I'm telling you, the second film has superior character development, Kaisara insisted, gesturing with her coffee cup. She had learned to drink the terrible coffee, though she still made a face every time. But the first one has better action, Jake countered. You can't just ignore the action. Character matters more than explosions, Kaisara said firmly. Lisa laughed. 6 months ago, I never would have imagined an alien princess arguing about movies with us. 6 months ago, I never would have imagined caring about fictional characters enough to argue, Kaisara admitted. Then she smiled, that very human expression she had learned. But now I understand why humans create stories. They help you feel things. They help you understand feelings you have not experienced yourself. Amy walked by with her breakfast tray and patted Kaisara on the shoulder. You're learning, princess. Next, we'll teach you about bad puns. I already know about bad puns, Kaisara said. Jake makes them constantly. They are terrible. Hey, Jake protested, but he was grinning. Kaysara gathered her empty tray and stood up. She had learned human customs over the past months. Clean your own dishes. Say thank you. Help others when they need it. These small acts of consideration were how humans showed they cared about each other. She walked through the corridors to her quarters. They were small compared to her rooms in the Crystal Palace, but she had made them her own. Photos covered one wall now. The crew had given her copies of their family pictures, including her in their personal collections. She studied these photos every morning, learning the names and faces of people she had never met, but who mattered to the humans she had grown to care about. On her desk sat two items. One was a small Velinari crystal, a gift from her father. It glowed softly, a reminder of her heritage and her home. The other was a photograph taken during her second week aboard the ship. The entire crew had gathered in the mess hall, cramped together to fit in the frame. Kaysara was in the center, looking uncertain and out of place. But around her, humans smiled and made silly faces and threw their arms around each other. Someone had written on the back, to Kaysara, who asked the right question. Welcome to the family. She picked up the photo and studied it. She looked different in it now than she had 3 months ago. More relaxed, more present, more alive. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called. Daniel entered, carrying a datapad. Morning, Ambassador. I have the latest communication from Velinari space. Your father wants an update on your progress. Kaysara set down the photo and took the datapad. She scanned the message quickly. Her father asked detailed questions about trade negotiations, cultural exchange programs, and her observations of human behavior. All official business. But at the end, he had added a personal note. Your last message spoke of friendship and laughter and belonging. You sound different, my daughter. You sound happy. This brings me joy, even as I miss your presence here. Be well among your chosen family. Kaysara felt warmth in her chest. That strange human feeling she had learned to recognize. Love, gratitude, connection across vast distance. He understands, she said softly. He sees that I have changed. Daniel moved to stand beside her, looking at the photo on her desk. Do you regret it? Leaving your palace, your eternal comfort, to live here with us mayflies? Kaysara turned to him, surprised by the question. Regret? No, never. Daniel, before I met you, I existed for 300 years without truly living. I had knowledge but no wisdom. I had time but no meaning. I had existence but no purpose. She gestured around her small quarters. Here, in these cramped metal corridors, surrounded by people who will age and die before my eyes, I have found something I never had before. I have found life. Real life. The kind that matters because it is temporary. The kind that hurts because it means something. Daniel smiled gently. It's not always easy, is it? Caring about people you know you'll lose? No, Kaysara admitted. Last week, when Carl received news that his mother had passed away, I cried with him. I felt his pain as if it were my own. It was terrible. It was beautiful. It was the most real thing I have ever experienced. She walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. I have learned so much from you humans. I have learned that coffee is disgusting, but drinking it together makes it bearable. I have learned that arguments about movies can be a form of affection. I have learned that cleaning up after yourself is a way of respecting others. I have learned that sharing food is sharing love. She turned back to Daniel. But most importantly, I have learned what you told me that day. That connection is what gives life meaning. That love is worth the pain it brings. That brief moments can matter more than endless time. You were right, Daniel. Everything else, all our achievements and possessions and accomplishments, are just tools to help us connect with each other. Daniel moved to stand beside her at the viewport. Outside, a new star system was coming into view. They were heading to meet another alien species, opening new diplomatic channels. "I never thanked you properly," Daniel said, "for what you did that day in your father's court. You defended humanity when your own people were ready to dismiss us as primitive. You put your reputation on the line for us." Kayasara shook her head. "I did not do it for you. I did it for myself. I saw in humanity what my people had lost, what I had been missing my entire life. You gave me a gift when you answered my question. You gave me understanding. You gave me the ability to feel." She was quiet for a moment, then added softly, "Do you remember what you asked me that day? When I was about to leave after seeing Earth? You asked me why I cared. Why sharing this with me mattered." "I remember," Daniel said. "You said it was because I asked to understand," Kaisara continued. "But it was more than that, was it not? You shared your deepest pain with me. You showed me your wife's picture. You let me see your vulnerability. You treated me not as a princess or an alien or a potential ally, but as someone worthy of truth, someone worthy of connection." She turned to face him fully. "That was the moment everything changed for me. When you trusted me enough to be honest, even though it hurt. When you showed me that connection requires vulnerability, that love requires risk, that meaning requires sacrifice." Daniel met her eyes. "And now? Do you still think it was worth it? Even knowing what you know about loss and grief and heartbreak?" Kaisara's answer came without hesitation. "Yes, 1,000 times yes. I would rather live one human lifetime filled with real connections than an eternity of empty existence. I would rather feel pain and joy than feel nothing at all. I would rather matter to someone for a brief time than exist forever without meaning." She smiled, and there was no uncertainty in it. "You asked what humans desire. I told my father that I desired the same thing: connection, love, belonging, meaning, and I have found it here, among you, with you." A gentle chime sounded, indicating that they were approaching their destination. Duty called them both back to work. But before they left, Kaisara touched Daniel's arm gently. "Thank you," she said simply, "for answering my question honestly, for showing me what it means to be alive, for welcoming me into your family." Daniel covered her hand with his. "Thank you for asking, for being brave enough to change, for choosing to live rather than just exist." They stood together for a moment, human and alien, two souls connected across the vast differences between their species. Then they left to join the crew on the bridge. The mess hall was fuller that evening. The crew had gathered to celebrate Amy's birthday. Someone had baked a cake, though it was slightly lopsided. Candles burned on top of it, and everyone sang the birthday song, their voices loud and off-key and perfect. Kaisara stood among them, singing along in her accented English. She had learned the words weeks ago, preparing for this day. Amy blew out the candles, and everyone cheered. "Make a wish," Jake shouted. Amy closed her eyes and thought for a moment, then opened them with a smile. "Already got everything I need. Good friends, good ship, good mission." "That's cheating," Lisa said, but she was smiling too. Cake was served, messy pieces on paper plates. Kaisara took hers and found a spot near the window. She watched the crew laugh and argue and tease each other, observed the casual touches of affection, the inside jokes, the comfortable familiarity of people who had become family. Carl sat down beside her. His eyes were still sad sometimes, missing his mother, but he was healing. "You're doing okay, princess?" Kaisara had asked them to stop calling her princess, but they did it anyway, turning the title into a nickname, a term of endearment. She did not mind anymore. "I am more than okay," she said. "I am happy." Carl nodded. "Good. You belong here now. You're one of us." Later, alone in her quarters, Kaisara composed her weekly message to her father. She wrote about the birthday celebration, about the terrible cake, about the singing and laughter. She wrote about Carl's grief and healing, about Jake's awful puns, about Lisa's homesickness and courage. She wrote about learning to be human without being human, about finding family among strangers, about choosing temporary connection over eternal loneliness. She ended the message with something her father would.